about it. But I think making them come back in, it makes us at least be comfortable as much as we can with, this is what we got, this is who it is. Dave Greco, has run a couple of businesses here, we know, who it is, things like that. So,
Dave, just hypothetically, and I agree, I think it's a good conversation, good dialogue. What would be the scenario if they came back for a transfer and city council simply voted no?
as long as you have justifiable reasons, I mean, it's not a constitutional right, so it'd probably be a rational basis, say this person doesn't have the experience, this person doesn't have this, and at that point in time, if you are, owner, Mr. Smith or whatever, your option is to get out, move on, forfeit, not pay the annual fee,
Assuming that happens and they simply vacate their license, would the process for that one vacant license then go back to what Councilman Bezura's,
Yeah, have a license available. Now, I don't know specifically if we would have to specifically advertise it, because this isn't like going out for a bid. This is not, this is not, trying to get the lowest bid on a contract over a certain amount of dollars. So I don't know if the license becomes available, if it just kind of sits there until somebody applies, or we let people know, we're open for business, on a particular one. So, as long as there's a rational basis, because this is not a constitutional right, Mayor, I think if we said, look, we're uncomfortable here, here's our rational basis for denying this transfer.
Like if we used a scoring rubric, that you're gonna use for the licenses right now, and assuming a transfer, if they don't, I don't wanna say score high enough, but kinda use that same rationale.
But you wouldn't be comparing them against someone else.
Yeah.
If it's just one person.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah,
They had to beat
so many people.
Now they don't have to beat anybody.
Yeah.
You would have to have a reasonable or rational basis. I mean, there might very well be an opportunity where you say, this person doesn't seem, this is a highly regulated business, and now it seems like we had an experienced business owner, now we don't have an experienced business owner. Or, the person, has some prior convictions in their background,
Right.
whatever it would be, any of those things.
I believe the medicinal went to planning, this has not went to planning for a recommendation for where they should be located.
I'll let Dave defer to the process. I don't think that this particular ordinance requires to go to planning. I believe the other two proposals would require to go to planning first and then back to city council. Is that correct, Dave?
That's right. So I can address, so one of the biggest things for municipalities in dealing with marijuana, because primarily the regulation is there's a licensing component because you're granting a permit or a license to do this. But, the location of businesses and types of businesses is traditionally a zoning type thing, right? That's what can you do, you go to if you're running a business, whether it's a marijuana business, an auto repair shop, or a vape shop, that would be a popular one that, has problems, you would always go to the zoning code and you figure out where can I be located, can I open here, can I have a topless bar, can I have a topless bar that serves alcohol, can I have, all those things. So with respect to marijuana, because this has been such a, I'll say, a public interest thing, what we've done here and what other communities have done is we've come to the city council with a licensing ordinance. And it's really, just like the medical marijuana, it's a decision by the city council on whether you want Taylor to be in the business of marijuana or not. That's where we put it, because the other commissions, they are very important. The Zoning Board of Appeals, the Planning Commissions are very important. They're not elected officials, okay? You guys are the elected officials of the community. So if you pass a licensing ordinance, just like we passed the medical marijuana, we kind of did it a little bit in reverse, okay? And so once you guys decided, all right, we want to okay with medical marijuana licenses in the city, then what we did is we took it to the Planning Commission, said, this is the policy of what they approved, this is what we're looking for to amend the zoning ordinance to allow certain things in there. So that's the reason for this. And that's the reason why not only your community, but other communities has had this, rather than you guys looking for an approval or not approval of whether or not you want the city of Taylor to be in the business of marijuana having been decided by non-elected, again, very important statutory issues that they deal with, the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals. And that's why we're kind of doing it this way.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with the idea and concept of a licensing ordinance that should be the elected body. My problem that I had with medical and that I have today is that we sort of got ourselves in trouble by avoiding planning, and that's in reference to the 1,000 feet. I think if we would have went to planning and said, okay, you guys understand the master plan, you guys understand developments, you guys understand or have access to very detailed data on every parcel in the city, we're about to vote on a medical marijuana ordinance that says you gotta be 1,000 feet from a park, a church, a school, or a house. What do you think of that? I get that I've gotta make the final decision, but hey, planning, what do you think? We're sitting on an ordinance right now that we were told in December or January that the 1,000 feet makes the ordinance almost obsolete because there aren't any such parcels in the city, or not enough of them to allow for a vibrant marijuana industry. So I'm saying, why do we want to make that same mistake again? Why don't we get input from planning? It is only a licensing ordinance, but part of the licensing ordinance very specifically says where you can and cannot operate. To me, that's a planning issue as much as it is a council issue. I still have to vote yes or no, but why wouldn't I want the group, the body that we've appointed to at least give recommendations, to give us a recommendation? I can tell you that I did reach out to planning this weekend. I sent Ms. Fell an email, asked her to pass it along to all the members of the commission, and said, hey, I'd like your opinion on location. I gave them a copy of the existing ordinance. Tell me what you think, good, bad, or indifferent. It's still gonna be I'll be one of 7, but tell me what you think. Tell me how many properties really are within 1,000 feet. If it's 0, how do I know 500 is good? Maybe it needs to be 250. Why do I want to keep guessing at that number if we've got a body that can tell us what that number is? So I agree that it's licensing, but we're putting very specific stuff in here. Westland says, and I don't know if it's Westland's ordinance or their policy or their zoning ordinance, this many north of Ford, this many south of Ford. You can't be in the city center. There's some very specific places that you can and can't go, which sounds to me like their planning commission and maybe their DDA, I don't know who else, said, okay, we don't mind you being here, but you can't be here. As an elected official, I wouldn't mind having that kind of an opinion from our planning commission. I may disagree with them, I may ignore them, but why do I want to make a decision that back in 18, I think we should probably regret because we assumed 1,000 feet would work, and I'm being told today that 1,000 feet is almost obsolete.
Mr. Chairman, 1,000 feet isn't obsolete. It is definitely, there are far less qualified properties in the city of Taylor, given the discussion that we had earlier.
And
So-
I used the word obsolete. I know you didn't say that, but the
Yeah.
point of reference
I get it.
it's not as good as we thought it was.
Yeah, we have had a lot of different work groups, we've had the public meeting, we've had a lot of different opportunities for input. I don't know if the planning commission, when they considered this in 18, what their position was in terms of what was being proposed.
But they were less than happy that nothing came to them for having that. So.
Yeah, so they will get a bite at the apple in terms of, you know, the ordinance, but again, I guess looking at it through a different lens, I didn't feel that taking it to the planning commission before bringing it to city council was in the best interest of the city of Taylor. We felt that bringing it to the city council and then allowing you guys to act on it was the better path. I don't know what other communities have done, good, better, or different, but one other thing to consider is a property owner has every right to request their property to be rezoned. And at that point, they would go to the ZBA and or the planning commission, depending on what that request looks like. So, you know, just because we have certain properties that are zoned I-1 or I-2 today, doesn't mean they can't be rezoned in the future. Now, they will have to demonstrate a hardship for that to truly be considered, but that is a process that they will have, and, you know, they would, I mean, if you guys go to your GIS, you can pull up, you know, all the different zonings in the city of Taylor, and there's a mapping mechanism in there
I
that you
played
can
around with it
measure.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and what it becomes a little more difficult is to, coordinate the boundary cities. That's the ones that become a little more challenging, because I don't know on the other side of Inkster what all those properties are zoned. I don't know on the other side of Van Born what all those properties are zoned, so on and so forth.